What's up? This is Iron and Soul, back today with another video. Please subscribe to my channel, like this video, leave a comment, let me know what you think about my content. Well, I want to do some work today and talk about the true nature of addictions. And the truth is that God cares, the Most High cares about your addiction, and He wants to see you free. Now, as I begin this talk, I'm going to talk about, first of all, Webster's Dictionary definition of the word addiction. It basically means to surrender oneself to something obsessively or habitually. To surrender oneself to something obsessively or habitually. See, think about addictions. We could be talking about cigarettes, cocaine, heroin, prescription drugs, gambling, eating disorders, corn addiction. You know what that stands for. I don't want to have any issues with that. But let's talk about just some basic facts about addiction and how this just really impacts so many people. And the purpose of this message is to give you some statistics or raw facts, but, most importantly, to give you a way of escape. That's what this is all about, to give you some hope. One of the very dangers of addiction is to make you feel that you are trapped. Give you a bit of my background, Iron and Soul. Before I, started YouTube, you guys know I did local church ministry for many years. One of my first assignments on the south side of Chicago, in fact, to be more direct, 59th and Low Street, Inglewood, the hood, the ghetto. I had the opportunity of running an addiction program in a community for 3 years. I say respectfully, I'm not just some guy talking on YouTube. I've done a lot of community work. In fact, to be, more direct, I'm gonna tell you exactly who I am. I did 10 years of community work through the churches, local church community, working with kids, working with older people. I did work in the field before I got on YouTube. And so I'm not just some guy talking on my backside. And so prior to this, I did this addiction program for 3 years in Inglewood on 59th and Low Street. And so I learned a lot about that. And I haven't really talked about that so much as I probably should. But I want you guys to know that there is a way out. And I saw men and women who I work with firsthand break free from drug addiction. It's a very powerful thing to see. But I also saw many people who just cannot get that proverbial monkey off their back. And maybe you're a man listening to this right now. This may not be a popular talk. This is not going to get 20,000 views, 30,000 views, something like that. But this is important for that one guy, for that one woman who hears this and needs this word of encouragement. So the characteristics of an addiction are threefold. Is number one, a loss of control. Number two, a compulsive preoccupation. And number three, a continued use despite negative consequence. So let's talk about that for a second. When you're addicted, you just lose control. And you spend all your money, all your time, your health is deteriorating. You don't look good anymore. You look different. Your teeth are not as white. And it begins to really just eat you alive, literally. It's this compulsive preoccupation. That's all you can think about. You may have a wife, you may have a husband, you got kids, you got friends, you got business to take care of, and you just can't shake this. And you do this despite the negative consequences. And this is what I've seen is the nature of someone who's addicted to drugs or pills or gambling or whatever it is. You can't stop. That's when you know it's an addiction, and that's when you know you need help. And saying that someone needs help is not an insult. That is the truth. You get to a place with this type of stuff, man, you need a way out. You need somebody to help you. And so, this video, of course, can't do that. It can give you some food for thought. It can give you perspective. But you may need to join an addiction program somewhere. That's not a weakness. That's smart to do that. You may need a mentor, an accountability partner, someone who you can talk to directly, week by week, to help you through this. Now, let's talk about some of these addictions and just some raw facts about this. Tobacco, worldwide, 1 in 10 adults is a smoker. Cocaine, approximately 36.8 million Americans aged 12 and older. Listen to this, 12-year-olds doing this, have tried cocaine at least once. Some of you guys listen to this, you may have tried cocaine at least once. You don't have to confess that. I'm not a priest, so you don't have to tell me that. We're talking here for a second. Just bear with me. Heroin. 3.7 million Americans have tried heroin at least once. And coming from the ghetto in Chicago, the West Side to be more direct, I saw firsthand how, man, crack cocaine just destroyed so many families. Firsthand, I mean, destroyed families, destroyed mothers, destroyed fathers. It's very sad, man. And I just saw this, and it's something that we need to bring more attention to. And that is the devastating effect of crack cocaine on the African American community. And then you see cocaine in a lot of white communities as well as heroin. There will be white men and women coming from the suburbs, coming from nice communities, driving to Chicago to get heroin, which they refer to on the West Side as diesel. If you hear somebody say diesel, they're talking about heroin. Meth. It's estimated that 10.4 million Americans aged 12 or older have used meth at least once. Prescription drugs. An estimated 4.7 million people used pain relievers in the past month. And some of you guys, and of course, there's a healthy use of pain medication. And then there are those who just abuse pain pills and you just pop them like candy. And it's almost like giving you this high, right? Gambling. 85% of U.S. adults have gambled at least once in lifetimes, and problem gamblers account for about 2 to 3% of adult men and women in America. Eating disorders. Research suggests that about 1 out of every 100 young women, 1 out of every 100 young women between the ages of 10 and 20 are starving themselves sometimes to death. And so this is another issue that people don't really call enough attention to. There are a lot of young women who have body images. And this is something I've observed firsthand at my time in college as a college student, then eventually as a minister at churches, and various assignments I had over the years of work. I saw a lot of young women who really had body issues and had an issue with their weight and really trying to fit this image that they see on TV, that they see on social media, that they see on Instagram, that they see on Twitch, that they see on YouTube. And body images is a big issue amongst young women, especially between the ages of, let's just say, 13 and like 25 years of age. Starving themselves, eating disorders. Corn addictions. Millions of Americans visit corn sites between 1 to 10 hours per week. And then you have another 4.7 million in excess of 11 hours per week. So you got some of you guys watching, 2 hours a day, consistently losing your seed, consistently living in your root chakra. And that goes for women too, by the way. 1 out of 3 corn users are women. So this idea that this is just a problem for men, that may have been true 15, 20 years ago. That is most certainly not true in 2022. And it definitely won't be true in 2023. So you think about that type of addiction, that has become a problem for men and women. And I blame a lot of people in power for that. There is an easy access to that for a reason. And the agenda with that is to do a number of things, to make weaker men, to take away the moral purity of a woman, which is very dangerous because you can always judge the state of a nation, of a country, of a community based on the morality of the women. That's a good gauge of that. Women, historically speaking, had a more chaste nature about themselves. They were the ones who had a higher moral fiber. And that has unfortunately changed in many ways in this current modern world. And that's something we see with a lot of the online content that you guys listen to. So as we talk about this idea of God caring about your addictions, let me take you to the book. You know me, I'm going to take you to the book. Let's look at Romans 13 through 14. It says, "Let us walk honestly as in the day, not in rioting and drunkenness, not in chambering and wantonness, not in strife and envying. But put ye on the Lord Jesus Christ and make no provision for the flesh to fulfill the lust thereof." So let's talk about that for a second. Let's break this down. Rioting refers to carousing or reveling, right? This can be a reference to, wild partying. A lot of us get into wild parties on a consistent basis. You're turning up, popping bottles. Some of you guys are going to strip clubs. You're doing stuff you should not be doing. And you're consistently rioting according to scripture. Not creating a riot as we would think about something like a political issue in America where people set houses on fire or buildings on fire and they're out there with police and there's a conflict in that regards. It's not referring to that type of riot. It's referring to your moral character when you're consistently feeding your flesh. You got to be careful, my brother, constantly feeding that lustly and fleshly and lust desire. According to 1 Peter 2:11, it says, "Dearly beloved, I beseech you as strangers and pilgrims, abstain from fleshly lusts which war against your soul." So we talked about this, men. It's a war. It is a battle to gain control over your sexual urges. It's not easy to do that. This is something that most men right now, for a number of reasons, just can't do. And this transcends seed retention. This is a lot deeper than that. Don't please minimize this talk to that. I hope you don't do that. This is a lot deeper than that because you can be on retention and still have sexual problems. Trust me. It ain't about just doing a retention. It's about your spirit. It's about your mindset, your perspective. Chambering, sexual immorality. And then wantonness refers to filthiness or debauchery. And there's a lot of that in this current world. I think it's important when you think about addictions and trying to overcome that. What do? Well, I think to overcome addiction, you have to understand a number of things, but certain sins, understand the very nature of idolatry, and understand how to deal with addictions. We talked about idolatry in one of my previous videos when I discussed that your problem is not sexual immorality, your problem is idolatry. So in order to understand addictions, you have to understand the nature of idolatry. Okay? So how this works, we are created beings. I'm gonna make this very simplistic. We're created in the image of God. And in our spirit, there is an altar, so to speak, right? Where we are supposed to have the presence of God. We're supposed to have the Spirit of God, right? That rules over the heart and the mind. You see, territory and leadership and kingship isn't just having territory over, let's say, for example, a home or a nation or a country or a specific part of the earth, such as a country like Russia or China or, the United States. Territory is each individual person. Your spirit has territory that can be claimed by the devil and demons or by God. Understand that. I'll talk about this. There is a war going on for your soul, brother. Understand that. This is why you have people who are selling their souls consistently for money and fame. Hey, when people say they sold their soul to the devil, they meant that. These are men and women who made a conscious decision to give control, the territory of their mind, their spirit, their influence over to Satan. It's a very dark thing. And it's sad when you think about this, just regular people who are, in some cases, just so desperate for fame, so desperate for wealth and influence. And the sad thing about these people who are over these industries, they take advantage of people who are vulnerable, people who are down, depressed, who need the money, who can't get things going themselves, and they take advantage of these people. And they give them these platforms, they give them this influence, they give them this money, and little do they know, they are really signing up for basically making themselves this demonic vessel. And I feel bad for them because some of these people don't really know what they get themselves into. And when they find out, you hear them crying out too. You hear there are a number of artists who have done that, who cried out for help and realized, man, I messed up. And those artists' stories and their videos are well documented online. If you do some research, you can find various clips of artists realizing that, man, I made a mistake. I shouldn't have did this. And so I encourage you, if you're listening to me and you are an artist or aspiring artist, you want to be a model or an actor or something like that, that's great. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with wanting to be an actor or a model or an influencer for that matter, or rapper, singer, dancer. That's all fine. That's all part of expressing yourself creatively as a human being. And I have no problem with that. I just want to caution you against signing contracts with demonic, satanic people, I'm going to be clear with you, and giving them access to your soul. So when we understand that idolatry is basically placing something on the altar of our heart and worshiping it. And this can happen with women. This can happen with cocaine. This can happen with meth. This can happen with drugs. This can happen with drinking, tobacco. We begin to put these things on the altar of our heart, and they basically control us. And it leads back to that original definition of the word addiction, to surrender oneself to something obsessively or habitually. Then I would say to kind of add to that, understanding beset and sins. The scripture says in Hebrews 12 verse 1, wherefore seeing we are compassed about with so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight and the sin which doeth so easily beset us, and let us run with patience the race that is set before us. And so what happens as you attempt to run this race of life, if you are not careful, you can have these weights attached to your spirit and mind that slow you down and keep you from becoming the best version of yourself. Now, as you think about the nature of an addiction, if you have been addicted to drugs or alcohol for, let's say, 5 years, 1 year for that matter, it's going to be difficult to stop this. So I'm not going to sit here and sell your dream. I'm not going to say that this 15-minute video, or how long this comes out, 12 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever, it's going to solve everything. Clearly, an addiction or something of this nature will require more than a 12 to 15-minute talk. Purpose of this is to bring awareness, to give some perspective, to give you some food for thought, but most importantly, to present and give hope. You do not have to be bound by an addiction. In other words, you don't have to pop pills every day. Let me just talk to you. You don't have to drink every day. There are ways of dealing with the pressures of life, your family, your finances, your future, your decision-making, the pressures we all face. There are ways of shouldering that pressure, my brother, without depending upon a satanic comfort. That's really what it is. It's the devil and Satan's way, demon's way of giving you this false sense of comfort. Let's be honest. Why do you drink? Because you like to be comforted. You might be depressed, down. You feel sad. And you're trying to remove that sadness through some type of substance. So I get it. I'm a human being. I understand that. I have my days when I'm sad and down, depressed. It's part of being a person. And what makes us strong people is that we find other ways of coping, right? And so I encourage some of you guys, as opposed to drinking or drugs, consider your physical fitness. That can be very helpful. Consider spending more time in reading. Consider spending more time in prayer and meditation, fasting. This can be very helpful. Growth, being around like-minded people, getting accountability if you need so. Going to an addiction program, that doesn't make you a failure to do that. It makes you smart. That means you understand you need help, and nothing wrong with that, by the way. And let me say this in closing. Understanding that addictions will not change overnight. It is a process. So let me give you that word as I close this. According to Exodus 23, 29, and 30, it says, I will not drive them out from before thee in 1 year, lest the land become desolate, and the beasts of the field multiply against thee. By little and little I will drive them out from before thee, until thou be increased and inherit the land. That is Exodus 23, 29, and 30. So what it is teaching is that when you're facing certain battles, God won't deliver you all at once. He'll do it little by little, 1 day at a time, 1 week at a time, 1 month at a time. So don't focus right now on overcoming addiction for a year or for 5 years or for 10 years. Focus right now on today, this week, 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 1 month, 2 months, 6 months. Start somewhere. Don't put the burden on your back of just having this perfect streak in whatever you're trying to overcome. Take it 1 day at a time. And so that's just a word of wisdom for you concerning addictions. I hope this was helpful. This is your brother Iron the Soul. Please feel free to follow me on Instagram at the King Jabez.